Hi, my name is Holly, and I am so happy to be here with you today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about healthy eating. This is a workshop created just for you, and what I want to do is share a resource that I have been connected with that I think that you will love as well. So it's very simple. It's actually called Choose My Plate, and it's really easy to get to from your computer. So I'm going to do a little thing called screen share here, and I'm going to show you, we're just going to walk through this website together, and I really encourage you to visit this later on your own. So I am going to do a screen share, hopefully, and show you what I was able to find on the internet. You should be able to just go into your computer at some point, go on the internet, and through whatever search engine you have, you're going to look at, I don't even know what I used this time, but a lot of times we use Google. And all you would want to do is you can simply type in My Plate, or you can type in Choose My Plate. Either way, this site will come up, and so then you can click on that. This, just so you know, is what we have in place of the food pyramid. The food pyramid does still exist, but most of the time what we've gone to is this little symbol right here with the My Plate. What I like about this is that the easiest way to think of it in terms of how do I know if I'm eating healthy, if you look at your plate and divide it in half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. And then part of it should be grains, and part of it should be protein, and then of course dairy. So what we want to do is once we get into this site, we can kind of look around. A couple different features that I love. Of course, you can scroll down to look at some of the foods. If you click on here, it shows you just a little bit about each category, and then you can click on them. Up here, what I'd like you to look at is if you click on Eat Healthy, which is what we're trying to do today. We can go in and just pick out a different food category. I typically like to show people the grains category because a lot of us are, we love grains, right? And when we think of grains, typically we think about foods like breads and pastas. But actually, when we are talking about grains, we're talking about a lot more than just bread and pasta. So anything that's made from wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, barley, or any other grain, that's a grain product. So what we want to do is recognize that all of our grains are separated into two subgroups, whole grains and refined grains. So a lot of times when you hear people talking about carbs, they're talking about bread, right? And they're talking very specifically about processed bread or processed grains. So what we can notice is that whole grains contain the entire grain kernel, okay? So that's the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. What this means, when we talk about refined grains, what they do is they take out some of these elements, like refined grains, they've got the degermed, they've been degerminated. Perfect. Perfect for this season of our lives. However, not really, okay? What we're gonna look at is, now we're gonna look at our food gallery, okay? You've got all of this down in here. Click on Food Gallery. And we're gonna look at whole grains and refined grains. All right, cracking myself up here. So half of our grains need to be whole grains. All right, what that means is when you look at this list, how many of these actually look familiar? When I look at the whole grains category, I recognize that some of these I've never even had before. So what we can also do is look over at the refined grains, like bagels and biscuits and breadcrumbs, okay, cakes, cookies, cornflakes, corn tortillas, cornbread, couscous, that's a refined grain. English muffins, all of the things that the majority of us have as a majority for our grains are in this refined grains category. All right, when you look at this list, just kind of look through pita bread, pizza crust, pretzels, rice cakes, ramen noodles, all the, you know, like the white bread and the waffles. All of these are considered refined grains. What we want to do is spend our time looking through this category and trying to find what we already consume, and then also what we can add into our eating plan. So most of the time when we're trying to eat healthy, we think in terms of what we need to take out of our eating plan. But really, one of the things that we can do is look at what we want to add in. So bulgur, that was one that I made a project of deciding, I think I want to learn how to eat bulgur. So if you are already eating that, good job. If you have a wheat sensitivity, that doesn't mean that you can't have grains. What it does mean is you have a wheat sensitivity and that you want to avoid wheat, okay? That would mean that you're wanting to find other whole grains. It doesn't mean that you can't have any grains, right? So, you know, some of these, brown rice, that's one that we are more, that we find more commonly in the stores. A lot of these things, you know, we would actually have to go on a hunt in the store to be able to find it. So what I want to encourage you to do is, as you look through this, you know, write down ones that don't look familiar. Pick one, right? Pick one for a month, maybe even. You could do one per week, but if that feels like it's overwhelming, it really is better to find one per month. Maybe whole grain barley, that's actually kind of hard to find in the store right now. When you look at it, you want the whole grain barley, right? Not the refined barley. If it says quick cook, that is not whole grain. Whole grain takes a little bit longer to cook. So it's better to find one, you know, you're gonna have to experiment with different ways to cook it. You might need to call your friends and ask, you know, hey, do you have any recipes for the ways that you like to eat it? It's better to add one in that will stick. One that can be a lifestyle change as opposed to trying, you know, 5 or 6 of them in a month and not sticking with any of them. Okay, slowly over time, we want to add in more and more of these whole grains. All right, another thing that you can do, you know, on this website would be, remember how I said, hey, we might have to call our friends and ask for a recipe. First off, I do encourage that because we want to stay connected to our friends, right? So what a great excuse. Y'all can share recipes over the phone or over the internet. But the other thing that you can do, a second choice here would be to, you know, click over here and look at the recipes. And thankfully, we have all sorts of recipes at our fingertips. All right, there, you know, as you scroll through this, you'll see cookbooks and just all sorts of incredible resources. They've got sample menus at different calorie levels. Really, really great, fantastic stuff here. So the other thing that I wanted to show you was going to be, if we're at the top here, browsing by audience. All right, so if you click on browse by audience, we can look at all the different audiences and what's going to be specific, some tips for each audience. So I went into adults because most of us who are watching this are adults, right? As we look through here, we can see older adults, and I can click on that. And what's awesome is it shows, you know, how eating can make a difference in our health. We all are familiar with that, but a lot of times it's hard to implement. So what we can do is increase our education, learn a little bit more about the nutrients, and then learn about different ways that we can get different recipes and add a variety into our diet. So one of the things that we look at, you know, as we're aging, a lot of times we're trying to reduce our overall sodium. Typically, foods that are really high in sodium would be processed meats, processed cheeses. Most of the foods that are processed have high sodium simply because that's what's needed in order to preserve them. So what we're looking at doing is adding more fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and then cooking meats ourselves. And as we do that, instead of adding salt and sodium, what we can do is add in all these different kinds of spices and herbs, and you can kind of research into that as well. Always talk to your doctor to find out if there's a certain sodium amount that you're gonna want to limit yourself to. Of course, we want to drink low-fat milk, get the dairy in. It's just that the processed cheese needs to be looked at if we're trying to maintain a low-sodium diet. Then, of course, we touch a little bit on being active your way. They talk about that a little bit here. General guidelines are that we stay at 2.5 hours or 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity. We're going to talk more about that in another one of our videos, but do know that that is also part of this website, that they're encouraging us to do that. I love all these resources. So as you look at resources, choosing healthy meals, looking at the National Institute on Aging, and of course that's where I've gotten some of our information for other videos that we've done through this series, and then looking at making food choices, knowing the food groups, and then looking at the activity. As you scroll through this, you're going to discover so much great information. So as you look at your planning, your toolkits, you can create printed materials, seasonal resources, quizzes. Oh, that's a good one. We always love a good quiz, right? All right, you've got quiz, table of content, all sorts of different ones that you can go ahead and go into and see what one you like. How much of your plate should be fruits and vegetables? Uh-oh. Remember, we did that in the beginning, right? Half, right? Let's go for that. All of it, right? Nope. And then you just go on and keep on scrolling. I'm not going to go ahead and take all 10 of these questions in front of you, but what I would love for you to do is you go ahead and take that quiz and see and test your knowledge on that. Wonderful note here. They even have information on food planning during the coronavirus pandemic. So what that tells us is that the CDC is staying on top of these resources, and they're very actively trying to help us through this difficult season that everybody's facing. And so this website is being maintained. It's not something that they just put out there and then left. So that's going to be great because it's going to be up to date. All right, I'm going to stop my screen share and say hello again. So as you find out more information and as you're trying to eat healthy, which I know that we're doing, right? So we all want to be healthy. Use that resource. Just Google or use whatever search engine you have to look at choosemyplate.org or .gov. So, but really just type in my plate or choose my plate and you'll be able to find it. Let me know what you find out. Send us some information over at the Y and let us know that you're finding benefit from it, or else hop on Facebook on our site and let us know that you are utilizing these resources and taking care of yourself. All right, thanks so much and hope to talk with you again soon. Bye-bye.